Welcome to Strange Historical Tales, where we delve into the dark and twisted corners of history. In this episode, we explore the life of one of history's most prolific serial killers, a woman whose name has become synonymous with horror and bloodlust, Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 in Transylvania, a region infamous for its dark legends and mysterious tales. She came from a noble family that boasted kings, cardinals, and even a disturbing lineage of individuals practicing Satanism and sadomasochism. As a child, Elizabeth was exposed to acts of brutality which some believe might have influenced her later behavior. At the age of 15, Elizabeth married Count Ferenc Nádasdy, a union that fortified her social and political power. The marriage was notable not just for its alliance between noble families, but also for the shared sadistic tendencies of the couple. Nádasdy reportedly taught Elizabeth new forms of cruelty, which they allegedly practiced on their servants. Elizabeth and Ferenc settled in Setje Castle, nestled in the Carpathian Mountains. The castle's remote location and imposing structure created a fortress of secrecy, allowing Elizabeth to conduct her activities away from prying eyes. Despite their shared cruelty, Ferenc was often away at war, leaving Elizabeth ample opportunity to indulge her darker passions. During these absences, Elizabeth's cruelty grew unchecked. She began by torturing servant girls within the castle walls, using tools and techniques designed to inflict maximum pain. This included jamming needles under the girls' fingernails, burning them with hot irons, and whipping them until they bled. Bathory's servants were not just victims, but also accomplices, aiding her in capturing and torturing new victims. After Nádasdy's death in 1604, Elizabeth's sadistic activities escalated. She and her accomplices, including her nurse, Ilona Jo, and a local witch named Rocha Sentes, began a reign of terror across her estates. They abducted young peasant girls under the pretense of offering them work, only to subject them to horrific tortures. The castle became a place of unspeakable horrors, where young girls entered but never left. Legend has it that Bathory believed bathing in the blood of virgins would preserve her youth and beauty. This macabre practice earned her the name Blood Countess and cemented her place in vampiric folklore. Witnesses testified to seeing her covered in blood, and some accounts claim she even drank it. These stories, while sensational, were grounded in the brutal reality of her actions. Bathory's methods of torture were gruesome and varied. She used hot tongs to tear flesh, needles to pierce sensitive areas, and knives to mutilate bodies. Victims were often left to suffer for days, their screams echoing through the castle halls. Some were beaten and left to freeze in the cold, while others were starved and forced to endure horrific pain before their deaths. Bathory's cruelty knew no bounds. In 1610, King Matthias II ordered an investigation into Bathory's activities. Led by Georgi Thurzo, authorities raided her castle on December 30th. What they discovered was beyond their worst nightmares. Thurzo and his men were greeted with scenes of unimaginable horror as they entered the castle. Dead and dying girls were scattered throughout the castle. Some were chained to walls, others were found in various stages of dismemberment. The floors were stained with blood, and instruments of torture lay around. Survivors were emaciated, bearing horrific injuries and scars from prolonged abuse. In one room, they found the bodies of two girls, one already deceased, and the other barely alive but severely mutilated. The investigators documented the gruesome evidence meticulously. They discovered journals and records kept by Bathory herself detailing the torture and deaths of her victims. These documents provided chilling insights into her methods and the extent of her cruelty. It was clear that Bathory took pleasure in her sadistic acts, viewing them as experiments rather than crimes. Bathory and her accomplices were immediately arrested. In a dramatic trial, they were accused of murdering 80 girls, though some estimates claim the number could be as high as 600. Bathory's closest aides, including Ilona Jo and Rocha Sentes, were executed for their roles in the crimes. Bathory, however, due to her noble status, was spared execution. Instead, she was confined to a solitary room in her castle where she remained until her death in 1614. During her imprisonment, Elizabeth Bathory was kept under strict surveillance. She was walled into a small set of rooms with only tiny slits for ventilation and passing food. The once powerful and feared countess spent her final years in solitude, her terrorizing legacy haunting the region long after her death. Visitors to Setye Castle reported hearing ghostly wails and feeling a chilling presence, believed to be the restless spirit of the Blood Countess. Elizabeth Bathory's trial drew significant attention, both locally and internationally. The testimonies of over 300 witnesses painted a horrific picture of her deeds. Survivors described the tortures in graphic detail, their stories consistent and harrowing. These accounts were pivotal in ensuring her conviction, despite her noble birth. The aftermath of Bathory's crimes left a lasting impact on the local community. Families mourned the loss of their daughters, and fear lingered in the surrounding villages. Setye Castle, once a symbol of noble power, became synonymous with horror and death. Over time, the tales of Elizabeth Bathory transformed into legend, blending historical facts with myth and supernatural elements. Despite the passage of centuries, Elizabeth Bathory's story continues to captivate and horrify. Her life and crimes have been the subject of numerous books, movies, and documentaries, each exploring the depth of her depravity and the dark allure of her legend. As we reflect on her story, we are reminded of the thin line between history and horror, and the enduring power of tales from the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the macabre. Stay tuned for more strange historical tales where the past is never quite as dead as it seems.